Hello students, how are you all? I hope all of you are doing good. So what we were discussing previously, we have a discussion about the chapter number 2 of the class 10th physics, that is about the human eye and the colorful world. Now, in our previous lecture, we have discussed about the structure of eye. We have seen the working of eye, and in our last lecture, we have a very good discussion about the defects in the eye and their correction. Now, this is the half part of the chapter, that is human eye. Now, going with the flow, we are moving to the colorful world. Now, we are starting our discussion with the colorful world, and in this lecture or in our further lectures, we are going to discuss about the more beautiful and the colorful things in the nature. So, most of the phenomena are occurring in nature, and you can see that the spectacular vision you can see in the nature is because of the light. Because light is having the interplay with certain objects and you are getting that colorful world. Now, in this lecture, we are going to discuss about the very interesting phenomena that is known as the scattering of light. What we are going to deal with? We are going to deal with scattering of light. Now, scattering of light. Scattering means spreading of light. It means spreading of light in all direction due to light is known as the scattering of light. Now, what will happen? In our atmosphere, you have seen that many type of the particles are present. I can say we have the water droplets, we have the dust particles, we have the smoke, and we have so many particles in our atmosphere. Now, what will happen? When a ray of light is going to strike these particles, a diffuse reflection is going to take place. If that diffuse reflection is going to take place, then light have a tendency to spread in all direction, and this particular phenomena is known as scattering of light. So, in our today's lecture, what we are going to answer? We are going to answer many questions that you have seen in the environment. Do you know why is the color of the sky blue? In this lecture, we are going to answer that part. Do you know why there is a reddening when there is a sunrise and sunset? This question we are going to answer in this section. And why is the color of the clouds white? And why is twinkling of the stars appearing? These all spectacular activities, these all natural activities that is happening is due to the scattering of light. So firstly, what is scattering of light? So it is the phenomena of spreading of light. So what will happen? In our atmosphere, dust particles, smoke and water molecules are present. These things are present in our atmosphere. So if these things are present in our atmosphere, whenever a ray of light is going to strike that objects, you can see that diffused reflection will going to take place. There will be the diffused reflection. Now, what is this diffused reflection? We have discussed in our previous lecture where a ray of light is going to incident on a surface. Instead of following the same path, it is going to move here and there, and this will be our diffused reflection. So, the spreading of light in different direction is known as scattering. Very simple. Spreading of light in different directions is called scattering. This will be our scattering. It means the light is going to be scattered. It means it is going to be spread in all directions. Now, if the light is going to be spread in all direction, you have seen that if the particle is having a smaller size, it will scatter more light, and if it is having a larger size, it will scatter low wavelength particle or low wavelength light it is going to scatter. Now what actually happening here, this thing is working actually in accordance with the Rayleigh's experiment. Rayleigh is the name of the scientist and he gave one simple formula for identifying the intensity of the scattered light. So what does Rayleigh say? So here we are discussing about Rayleigh's criteria. So what does Rayleigh said about this scattering? The Rayleigh said that the intensity of scattered light, is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the wavelength. It means it is inversely proportional to fourth power of wavelength, and this wavelength will be denoted by lambda. It means if the wavelength is large, the scattering will be low, and if the wavelength is low, the scattering will be very large. That's why you can see that the blue color is having a shorter wavelength, and you can see that most of the things around us are visible as to blue, because the blue color is very much scattered by the particles because it is having a shorter wavelength we have. So this is the concept which is actually we use in all the spectacular phenomena we are going to deal now. So what is the Rayleigh's criteria? The intensity of the scattered beam is proportional to the fourth power of the wavelength, and lambda here is our wavelength of light. So it is a one just simple statement that it will be proportional to the inversely proportional to the fourth power of the wavelength. More will be the wavelength, less will be the scattering, less will be the wavelength, more will be the scattering. And this is the reason why the blue color will be scattered more as compared to the other colors. So this is all about the Rayleigh criteria, which is actually based upon the scattering. Now, you can have heard about a term or you have heard about the phenomena in your 9th class in chemistry, that is about the Tyndall effect. Now, what is this Tyndall effect? You can see that a light has a ability to pass through the colloidal solution, but it is not going to pass through the true solution. So this phenomena is actually the heterogeneous and the homogeneous mixture we have discussed in the chemistry. But now Tyndall effect is observed when you have a dark room. When you have a dark room and there is a hole or ventilator in that room and a beam of light is coming, and in that room you have seen that in that beam of light there are small particles. These small particles are due to the Tyndall effect. This phenomena is known as the Tyndall effect. Now, what other examples of the Tyndall effect you can observe in your day-to-day life? You have seen that in the dense forest, when a ray of light is coming, you can see the particles present in between them. So actually scattering happens there. Scattering is happening because in the dense forest you have the water molecules. So after striking that water molecules, the light has the ability to scatter in all directions. And the Tyndall effect is a phenomena which is actually working on the scattering of light. So the first phenomena we have is about Tyndall effect. So the topic is all about Tyndall effect. Now Tyndall effect is actually a very interesting phenomena you have. Our atmosphere is actually heterogeneous atmosphere. The atmosphere around us is a heterogeneous atmosphere. Heterogeneous means we have a different particles in our environment. And what are these different particles? These different particles are our dust, smoke, or we can say that water molecules, and different gases we have in the environment. or different gases. So we can say that our atmosphere is heterogeneous in nature. So if our atmosphere is heterogeneous in nature, we have some particles which are small in size and some particles which are larger in size. Then according to the Rayleigh criteria, when the particle will having a shorter wavelength, it will scatter more light, and if the particle is having a larger wavelength, it will scatter the light ray of shorter intensity. So this is accordance with the Rayleigh criteria. Now what will happen in a dark room or a dark space? If I am considering a ventilator or an open hole, a beam of light is entering that room, and that beam of light will consist of small particles. This is a very common activity you have seen in your day-to-day life. If you have not seen, just do this activity. This is a very simple activity we can do at our place. So this light particle will consist of small particles, and these small particles are due to the phenomena known as Tyndall effect. So the most common example of a Tyndall effect is that in a dark room, in a beam of light, you can observe small particles, and you can observe these small particles. This is actually because scattering works there. This is due to scattering of light. Scattering of light will be the reason for this. Now, secondly, in the dense forest, in dense forest, in a beam of light, there is small particles. So in a beam of light, there is a small particles, and why these small particles are there? Because the water molecules in atmosphere scatter light. So this is the same phenomena which is actually working on the scattering of light. So these are the two beautiful examples or two beautiful spectacular phenomena you can observe in the nature, which is completely based upon the scattering of light, and these are known as the Tyndall effect. So this is the Tyndall effect which is actually working on the scattering of light. Now we have many questions in our mind. So what are these questions? Firstly, I am writing here, why is the color of sky blue? Why is the color of the sky blue? This is a very common question. Why is the color of clouds white? Why there is a reddish, or we will get the red hues just before sunrise and sunset? So why there is a reddish color, or we can say that why there is a red hues during sunrise and sunset? Next question, what is the reasons for the twinkling of stars? So the fourth one is reasons for twinkling of stars. Why there is an apparent shift in the position of the sun before sunrise and sunset? There is a shift in the position. It means it will appear 2 minutes before and 2 minutes later to us. So there is a delay of total 4 minutes there. So the fifth question will be apparent shift in sunrise and sunset. So now we are going to answer the questions of very beautiful phenomena that are occurring in the nature. So firstly, I am showing you that what is the reason behind that why do stars twinkle. Okay, so the question is, why do stars twinkle? The main reasons for the twinkling of star is that the star is considered as a point source of light. So if I'm considering star as a point source of light, whenever the starlight will reach to the earth, it has to pass through the medium of different refractive index in the atmosphere, because you know that whenever we are moving through various layers of the atmosphere, there is a change in the refractive index. Due to this changing of the refractive index, you can see that the light is going to deviate from its path. Okay, so if a light is going to deviate from its path, it will either bend towards the normal or it is going to bend away from the normal. Okay, so when this thing take place, what actually happens, the starlight sometimes appear to us as a fainter, okay, and sometimes it appears to us as a brighter. So this is a combination of brightness and faintness our eyes is observed, and this phenomena is basically known as the twinkling of stars. Okay, so this is the reason behind the twinkling of stars, because star will be considered as a point source of light. Clear? And when this starlight reaches to our eyes, it has to suffer atmospheric refractions. Why it is suffering such atmospheric refractions? It is basically suffering this refraction due to the different refractive indices of the different layer. So this this atmospheric refraction is due to different refractive indices in atmosphere. So when this light is going to appear, or when this light is going to fall on our eye, sometimes it appear brighter and sometimes it appear fainter. Okay, so you will get the bright light sometimes and you will get the faint light sometimes. So this brightening and the fainting light that you are going to you are getting to in your eye, this is actually known as the twinkling of stars. So actually the stars do not twinkle, actually the lights you are getting in your eye is sometimes brightened or sometimes it is fainted. So this brightened or fainting of the light is actually known as the twinkling of stars. This is known as the twinkling. Okay, now the major question arises here, why do planets do not twinkle? Have you ever observed that why planets do not twinkle? Because the planets are the extended source of light. So if I'm considering it as an extended source of light, it is a combination of a large number of the point sources. So when you are going to average the light intensity due to each point source, it came out to be 0. So it will nullify the twinkling effect, and this is the reason that planets do not twinkle. The planets do not twinkle because in this case the effect is nullified due to the much larger point sources that we are considering. Okay, now this is the first thing, due to the atmospheric refraction that we have seen that why the twinkling of stars is appearing in the sky. Now the next question is, why is the sun appears completely reddish at the time of sunrise or sunset? You have seen that there is a reddishness in the sky, or there is a sun which is reddish in color at the time of the sunrise. So let's see what is the reason behind that. So what is the reason behind the reddishness of sun at the time of sunrise? So the very simple phenomena behind this is again atmospheric refraction. You know that in our atmosphere there are a large variety of the particles. You have the dust, you have the smoke, you have the water vapors. Whenever a light is going to pass through these molecules, or you can say these particles, it will definitely going to undergo the refraction. Okay, it will definitely going to undergo the scattering. So we know that blue color of the sky, that is the blue color in the sky, has a very low wavelength, and the wavelength of that blue color is very small, that the color of, that is the red color wavelength, is approximately you can consider 2 or 3 times the wavelength of the blue light. So whenever this blue light is going to pass through these molecules, there is scattering take place. Okay, and this light has been scattered, and if this light is scattered everywhere, you cannot observe any color in your eye. So what is the color left behind? The color left behind is red, and red is having a very large wavelength. So whenever this light is going to pass through these particles, the scattering take place, and the scattering take place, and you will see the entire color of the sun as the reddish instead of getting the blue color. So the reason behind that the sun appears reddish at the time of sunrise is scattering. Okay, and we have discussed previously that what is scattering of light. So in the atmosphere you have a different kind of particles. You have water droplets, you have dust, you have smoke and water vapors too. When a ray of light is going to pass through these given particles, you can see that red light, okay, and you have the blue color. So this red color has a greater wavelength, and this blue light or blue color has the smaller wavelength. So whenever a light is going to pass through this greater or smaller wavelength, the smaller wavelength will be scattered, and you will see the no blue color in the sky. So the entire color is of the red color. That's why the sun appears reddish at the time of sunrise. Clear? So this is the reason behind the reddishness in the sky. Now the third question we have is, apparent shift in the position of sun. Okay, now why this phenomena is occurring? You have generally observed that there is always a delay in sunrise and sunset, and you will get the overall day extended up to the 4 minutes. Okay, so why this thing is happening? This thing is actually happening, the actual sunrise is only considered when the sun crosses the horizon. So whenever the sun crosses the horizon is crossed, you can see that again the same phenomena is going to work there, and at the same time of the sunset the same phenomena is going to work, that is atmospheric refraction. So whenever there is a refraction in the atmosphere, the light rays will have to travel a medium of different refractive indices, and if the different refractive indices are there, the light is going to bend away from the normal. Okay, so whenever the ray of light enters the earth's atmosphere, so if it is going from upper to lower, then in the lower section you have a greater refractive indexes. Okay, so you have a bending of light rays either towards the normal or away from the normal, and that's why these phenomena are going to occur in the nature. So actually, if I'm considering that it is the observer on the earth, this is the observer on the earth, and this is our horizon. So if I'm assuming the sun here, if the sun is above horizon, you will say that there is a sunrise, but actually the sun is at this position and you are seeing the sun at that position, so there is a apparent shift in the position of the sun. And why it is happening? Because the observer in the earth, whenever he is looking in the atmosphere, he has to suffer a atmospheric refraction. It means the light is going to travel from different refractive indices here. So this, for the observer, the sun is actually appearing. So you are just getting the early sunrise and delay sunset. You will always observe early sunrise and delay sunsets. Okay, so this is the actual position. This is the actual position of the sun. But the observer on the earth is observing the early sunrise. So for him, it is the actual position. It is actual position, and this position is known as the apparent position you have. So this is the apparent position of the sun, and this is the actual position of the sun the observer is getting here. So it is again a very interesting thing that is occurring in the nature. So we have just answered that what is twinkling of stars, we have answered that why planets do not twinkle, then after we have seen that why there is a reddish color of the sun and why there is an apparent shift in the position of the sun. Okay, now the next question is, have you ever observed then whenever the astronauts go into the space, what is the color there? The color there is dark. It means why there is a black color all around? It is because there is no scattering of light. And why there is no scattering of light? Because when an astronaut is going to the space, he is leaving the Earth's atmosphere. So whenever he is leaving the atmosphere of the Earth, there is no scattering in the outer atmosphere, so all it seems to be black there. Okay, so this is again a very interesting thing that is occurring in nature, that astronauts see black color everywhere in space. So why there is a black color? This is again a very important thing, and that can be asked in your exam, that there is a black color everywhere in the space. The only reason behind is that there is no atmosphere. Okay, and if there is no atmosphere, you can see that there will be no scattering. So if there is no atmosphere, there will be no scattering, and if there is no atmosphere and scattering, the all thing appears the black and black for the observer in the or astronaut in the space. So here are the few of the things that we have answered in our today's lecture. I hope this video lecture has been clear to you. The rest of the topics and rest of the interesting things we will cover in our next lecture. Thank you so much and have a great day.